Alright, so everyone's here. Let's just start with introduction, just so everybody knows who's who. So I can start. I'm Kevin. I've already tested the game and I posted some videos about it. Um, and let's start with Helen and then Tanisha.
Sure. I'm Helen. I'm part of Team Barnona. We've been working on this really cool visual novel called Wake Up for buildspace. I've been doing mostly just like the writing for it and like the storytelling. And in my day job, I'm a product manager. So very, very different vibes. But I've always really enjoyed writing and I've always loved video games and their ability to tell stories. So I was very excited about this project. It was super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. I'll go next then. Hi, I'm Tanisha, and I'm working with Helen on this game that she just mentioned about. In my case, I also work as a UX designer at Microsoft, and it's kind of aligned closer to my work area because I work for Xbox, and yeah, so gaming is definitely a big part of what I do for my work and as well as outside of work. Love gaming, and like the thing that really drives me towards games, mostly the games that I love are the narratives around it. So yeah, mechanisms and all are really great, required and fun. But yeah, working with Helen, we were just kind of thinking like, this is our first game. What's like the baseline that we can do to kind of take a person through this narrative, through this journey? So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that that's why I'm pretty excited to be working on my first game with Helen on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm really excited to watch it develop. I played the version 1 demo and it was pretty fun. And I got my girlfriend to play as well. And yeah, so uh,
Yay.
Thank you
it
so
was
much.
kind of fun watching her play it. Kind of like sitting next to her, I could see her like react to it. I got spoiled a little bit because I user tested, but
Mhm.
I was still happy to see that I could watch someone do it for the first time. Um, One question: why Team Barnona? Like, where that's such a strange sort of sound to put together. Is there an origin story for that?
I mean, it all started when I said we should add a little banana duck plushie into the
Mm-hmm.
game. And Tanisha was like, "What in the world are you talking about?" But she actually bought me one in real life, so now we have that as well. But the name for Team Barnona is just based on that like banana duck plushie. I actually don't remember like I'm pretty sure Tanisha came up with the name because I don't remember where it came from. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like she had it in her script, and then I went on like a full-on rampage illustrating it, and it came out to be really cute. So it started getting a lot more attention than I guess it deserved, but it's cute. So, and I think we had like a very generic name, like Teddy or something. And I was like, you know what, we need to give him a more legit name. So it was like Lord Barnona Taiko Dakisan or something. It's like a banana. So it's like a play on banana, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
Barnona. So yeah, that's how it came about. And then eventually we were like, we need to name ourselves, and we are like, yeah, maybe Team Barnona.
Did
Hard sell, but yeah.
did the name change though? Because in the game, I remember it to be like Lloyd Bennison or something like that.
Oh
Oh.
yeah, Barnona is the first name.
Okay, so the full name is Barnona Bennison. Okay,
Yeah, something
that's
like
a
that.
that's an interesting detail. Um, but yeah,
So yeah.
That
how
tells you how much backstory the game actually has. We spent tons of hours just kind of having this fun back and forth
Yeah.
around it.
so now that you've actually like released a version 1 on itch.io, um, I'd like you guys to kind of describe the process of like uploading it, launching it. Kind of, did you get a lot of viewers? Did you get like feedback? How would that like process?
Yeah. Helen, do you want to go ahead, or I could take this one if you'd like?
I mean, you're the one who actually did the mouse clicking and the buttons and everything to, upload it. So I'm happy for you to take it away.
Yeah, sure. So Coming to your question, it was an interesting process. Like, definitely the part that me and Helen would love to talk about is the creation of the story itself, because I think that was like the massive bit of it, which Helen kind of totally aced, like having that solid, robust storyline, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the actual release part was pretty interesting because I remember when we started on this project, I shared like a small slideshow with Helen. It's like, what will be success for you? Like, what will make you happy at the end of this experience? And she was like, if something works, I'll be happy. And for me, it was like,
Yeah.
there were really tiny goals there. Like, and for me, it was like, I want three people to play and enjoy that game. Like, that was my this thing. And honestly, as we kind of started putting more thought in this, it started becoming real pretty soon. And I think the thing that really injected life into it was build space. Like with
Mm-hmm.
build space, the game was no longer just between me and Helen. It was something where we started sharing it out with world, and that's how we got in touch with you and people like Shevin and Faz and things like that, right? So I think build space was definitely the thing that kind of pushed us out of our comfort space. And we did kind of feel like we prematurely kind of released the game. Like as you saw, you played the V1.
Mm-hmm.
It covers about 20% of our vision of what we actually wanted to convey,
Mm-hmm.
but we are on a tight schedule. Like we wanted to
Yeah.
get that analytic dashboard up and running. So both me and Helen kind of decided, you know what? I think what we have so far, our original aim was to have branching narratives. So at the end of it, all the decisions that you take lead you to different outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we had 1 week to kind of ship it for build space. So we are like, you know what? Let's just get one major storyline in place, like
Mm-hmm.
kind of the structure of it, and let's release it and start getting feedback. And in retrospect, it was a good idea because we started getting a lot of good feedback. But one thing we do kind of feel a little bad is it this project is a little different from other projects on buildspace, which are apps. There is a spoiler involved, so once
Mm-hmm.
you play the V1, we kind of worried the impacts of the actual full V2 game that we're releasing. How well will that land? But I think it's like a new game for us, and it's a learning process for us. So releasing it on itch.io was fairly easy. We developed this game on Renpai, and the build distribution was pretty linear. I remember it was an exciting day for me and Helen. We kind of sat together and we were like kind of having these virtual champagne toast. But there was a massive this thing, which was the release I think has some problems working on Mac because Apple App Store has like some really strict rules and regulation. You need to have like
Mm-hmm.
you need to pay a fee to get certified or licensed, something
Mhm.
like that. So I know a couple of my colleagues who do use Macs, they weren't able to download and play it. But other than that, I have been here like people who are on PC, they are able to access the game pretty easily, and it's really nice seeing screenshots on my messages where my friends send me that, hey, we tried your game, loved it, and things like that. It's been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of to
So.
like build off of that, like right before we hopped on this call, I actually saw that like this girl that I really look up to in the gaming space, her name is Emily Pitcher. She like started her own gaming studio and everything after like she got rejected from countless like gaming companies, and she has a game right out right now. On Steam, that's like has an overwhelmingly positive rating. Like I really look up to her. She's like the reason why I started making games in the first place, and I saw that like she actually played through it as well. So right before like I hopped on this call, I saw her like commenting on it, like just played this, it's really good. Saying that the art is really cute, Tanisha. That's all
Oh,
you. And that she's like definitely intrigued to learn more about the story after like what happens after the demo. So it's definitely such a cool experience to be able to see feedback like that. Like it's I'm
Yeah.
glad we released
That's
it.
amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Helen, this is like the first time I'm hearing this. And I don't know if you can see it. I'm so excited. I look up to Helen picture too. Like,
Oh my
Helen,
god.
the game Taste of the Past, and I love her art so
Yeah.
much. And oh my God,
Mm.
my heart is racing here
Yeah. She likes our game.
I think I'm done. Like, I've reached
Yeah.
there. So,
Success.
yeah. And then same thing happened between not Emily Pitcher. This is probably pretty big for me. But for me, it was like I was in a meeting with my skip manager yesterday, and I never thought he knew anything about it, and he was like actually following your journey on the game. That I was like,
Oh my
okay.
god.
Yeah, so yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear that
Yeah.
it's just not between the two of us anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to kind of ask about the story. So obviously, I feel like it's a very interesting story, and it's a very unique kind of story. The plot I've never really heard before. I know there are stories that eventually circle around full circle, and then you start where you began. But this one did it in a very different way, and I just wanted to ask, how did you come up with that? Like, was it one person's idea and it kind of grew, or did you guys like sit down in a room without any ideas and be like, okay, what do we want to do, and kind of like, how did you guys come up with the story, and how long did it take to actually evolve that into what we see today?
Um, well, I mean, the story started with just this like random idea that I had after listening to a song. And I reached out to Tanisha because we worked on like this hackathon together. And afterwards, she reached out to me and she was like, if you ever want to work on something again, like, let's do it. And I was like, honestly, I'm down. So I had this idea about like making like a girl making her friend, like a girl wanting to create a perfect friend because she doesn't have like a perfect friend in real life. And that's kind of like where the story kind of started, like the ideating for the story started. And in the beginning it was like I thought of it as a cooking game. Like I was like, it's gonna be this girl in like a kitchen, like brewing something in her little pot, like creating a person. um but obviously that's not what it is. Like if you play through it, you know that's obviously not what it is, but that's where it all started. And after I pitched this idea to Tanisha, she was like, oh, that's really interesting. And from there, like we kind of like we talked about it amongst ourselves, and over time it like began to evolve into something a lot more robust. um and honestly, like even now, I feel like it's still kind of evolving. Like we have a really good
Mm-hmm.
idea now of what the story is about, of who these characters are, of what the ending is going to be. But honestly, I didn't expect for what we have as a demo to just be 20% of the story, like Tanisha said. Like I thought that would be 100% of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So even now, like things are still changing. Like nothing is super set in stone. I've been thinking about, and I told Tanisha about this. I've been thinking about using like really simple mini games to help push the narrative forward in the full version of the game. So like things are still up in the air, in discussion, changing little by little, day
Mm-hmm.
by day. So, yeah.
Oh, and one thing I will add though, Kevin, like when you asked about like there was this one moment I think we've been working off like kind of in different continents and through like just online. So through most of it. The first time we met in person, we kind of that's when we had some of these major changes
Oh
where we
yeah.
thought, okay, like let's strip down things that are not needed and just kind of how can we make this singular track work, and that's where we kind of decided. And I think Helen was the one who was like, hey, you know what, I'm unable to tell this extra part of the story unless we kind of go back to the this thing. So that's how we kind of came up with this loop. And also one other thing I will notice is we'll probably need to have a timestamp of like a spoiler beyond this meeting because we're talking about that loop.
Yeah.
Massive spoiler there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like you guys made the right decision in shipping it out quickly, um, just so people can kind of see what the actual process is and give you feedback, because as a first game, right, you don't really know if anyone else kind of likes the idea, and it's only because you published it already that you actually got all this feedback, and that kind of gives you motivation to like continue, like you're on the right track. um, Whereas if you published it and people were like, oh, this story's not that interesting, you would only have worked on like 20% of it instead of pouring your heart and soul into 100%. So I'm really grateful that you guys did do that. But Also, another thing to consider is how big do you want your audience to be? Because right now I feel like it's only like build space and you guys are advertising in your channels. I think Helen had been posting on TikTok and like Instagram. Um, but yeah, I mean, what are your hopes for this game, and will there be like another future game in development?
I think before we start thinking about future games, which, I would love to work with Tanisha on more projects in the future, um, we have to finish this one first. I don't have like the thought in my head like what we would do for a future game. Cause I think right now like I'm still kind of like working through how to tell the story for the remainder of the game. And I've been
Mm-hmm.
taking a little bit of a break from it too, like to explore some other things and kind of like clear my head. Um so I haven't really thought about it that much. I also throughout the process of creating this game, I also never really thought too much about the audience because I think for both Tanisha and I, this was more of a creation for ourselves
Mm-hmm.
rather than creating for the purpose of like creating like a really successful like commercial game or something. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the future, maybe in the future we would do that. But for this game specifically, I still think of it very much as like um I don't want to say like a contained thing because it's not anymore, but definitely something that I hold very close to my heart. Like it's something that I worked on because I wanted to, not
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted
A
other people
passion
to
project.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to add on to that, like I kind of agree with Helen too. Like, we definitely want to finish this game.
Mm.
And in terms of audience, like Kevin, I kind of alluded to it in the start. For me, it was just like, hey, I love working with Helen on this hackathon, and she's in one of her Medium articles. She was like, I'd love to work on a game. And I was like, hey, I would like to work on a game too. And even before, although Wake Up is like my first game where I'm kind of in the core this thing. Before that, I've partnered with another one of my co-workers called Cody, and we worked on this game called Junk. So for me, what I've realized through this entire process is um, I have got a very good sense of my strengths and my weaknesses. I know what I can bring to the table, and then I know where I miserably fail, and that is like the copywriting and the storytelling element is where I need a lot of this thing, right? And that's where I love this collaboration. And what I've kind of found is it helps to have. I'm probably gonna make this really clear so that I don't muddle. It's good to have about two or three projects happening in tandem, because sometimes when you hit a wall on one, you just kind of take your mind off, move to the other one for a bit, just
Mm-hmm.
to kind of help clear your mind. But at the same time, you don't overwhelm yourself by just kind of spreading yourself too thin. I think it happened with both me and Helen, and I realized we both kind of uh, like taking care of each other was like a big thing. Of like we were always constantly in check, and I was like, "Hey, Helen, my work's gonna get really amped up right now, so I might not be able to lean in." So that clear communication was a big this thing. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, I feel like with Wake Up, I did have like that singular focus with Wake Up for some time, and then after I started hitting a bunch of walls on Renpa, I was just like, you know what? I don't want to work with code anymore. So I decided to work on this really physically like tangible game, which is like called Cosmic Chaos, because I had these tarot card illustrations. And I have another friend called Verdu, and he's like, I'm working on this card game about around food. So there's quite a few things that are kind of on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I'm like, the singular focus is Wake Up. Until I finish Wake Up, I'm not gonna dip uh, completely. I'm gonna dip my toes there a little bit just to kind of test out the waters, but not gonna pivot myself to work on those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, do you guys expect that the game will be 100% done by demo day? Because that's coming up soon.
Good
No.
question. My aim for it though, let's Helen, you can kind of counter. I can be like, no, Tanisha, that's not happening. But my aim is like, I'm really looking forward to uh, the IRL event. Like for me, like I've been in game jams before, like hackathons, like the energy of just kind of sitting next to people who have that same singular goal of just like getting something out into the world, it's really kind of exciting, right? So I want to kind of use those 3 days kind of heads down with Helen and kind of get stuff out of the door. And in terms of demo day, honestly, Kevin, I feel like what we've done so far, I'm really happy with what we have for demo day. Like we have a working code, we have a downloadable game. We can send a link to
Hmm.
you, download stuff. So I'm happy about it. I'm more excited about the in real life event, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page there. I think what we have right now is good enough for demo day. I honestly, demo days in like what, like 8 days, 7 days. Like we are not going to have the full version done by then. And if we want to do that, it would be like a real like I have to like take time off from my job. Like
Mm.
Yeah.
cannot I don't think it's gonna happen, but I am also excited about like being able to work with Tanisha in real life again because we don't get to do that a lot, even though we kind of live in the same like area. It's just I don't drive and whatever. But so yeah, I'm really excited about the in-person stuff. I'm really excited to work on this stuff in person, be able to take time off from my day job and like just work on this. But for demo day, I think we've kind of like we've reached our goal for demo day,
Mm.
honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not like pressuring you guys to get it
Mhm.
done by demo day. I was just curious because
Yeah.
I'm pretty interested in seeing the final version of it. But now that you guys have confirmed that it's not going to be ready by demo day, I'm assuming you guys will be continuing to work like after build space is over,
Mhm.
on the project.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And will you guys be interested in coming back for season 4 of Nights and Weekends?
Oh.
I am
Honestly, yeah.
definitely, I have already made up my mind. I am definitely
Yeah.
coming in. I love this entire experience so much. It was testing in a bunch of ways, and I've kind of seen a change in my demeanor. Like I think there was something that Farza mentioned. Like as creators, we love to create, and
Mhm.
that felt like a direct attack to me because I'm somebody who has like loads of like illustrations and songs and so many things just kind of.
Yeah.
I really just genuinely enjoyed the experience of creating it. The thing that drains me is kind of putting it out and kind of
Hmm.
marketing myself.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
hell for me, and it kind of pushed me out of that comfort zone. So yeah, I definitely appreciate it so much. It's been a great learning experience. So yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like especially as we continue to work on the full version of the game, I would love to like continue being part of build space and continue being around like other people who are building and creating. And I think it like definitely gives me a little extra like external motivation um to actually work on things. So all
Hmm.
good stuff. All
Yeah.
good stuff.
I think it's for me it's just really refreshing, especially in this season of Build Space because last season was a lot of like Web3 and AI
Mhm.
products. But this season I've been able to talk to a bunch of different creators about a bunch of like different unique projects.
Mhm.
And for example, like your game, I really like it. I feel like it's something that I would be it's memorable to me, right? Like if I'm like 5 years from now, I'll be like, oh yeah, I participated in season 3, and these are some of the projects I really like, and you guys will be one
Aw,
of them.
Thank you so much. That means a
Um,
lot to us,
so
Kevin.
sweet.
yeah, but it's like so many people have like such great ideas. They just don't have the motivation to kind of put in that energy, and kind of get the support, to consistently build it. And I feel like, if you guys didn't get any feedback, you wouldn't, you probably wouldn't be as confident as like publishing it and sharing it with people. Um, but I'm really grateful to be one of those like early users that can be like supporting, these projects. Um,
Yeah,
and I hope that in the future you guys will like check some of like check other people's out and get feedback or give
yeah.
feedback. Um, And another thing I wanted to mention, I will be at the SF IRL. So
Okay.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm
Sure.
trying to meet everybody I interview, like if they're going. So I'll will definitely have to get in touch when I travel there at least. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. But do you guys have uh, any other ambitions for working together in SF? So I'm not really sure how the event is structured, to be honest, because it's like 3 days and they didn't release an events list. But were you guys like hoping to have like a hackathon kind of thing, um, or something like that?
I mean, I can't speak for Tanisha, but I do hope that we'll have time to work on our stuff. I would love that. I don't really know about other stuff. I do want to meet some people in real life. I think it would be great to like actually see the faces of people that like have been working alongside us kind of throughout season 3, but I do want like time to actually create things as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Plus one to that. And for me, like there have been sessions where we just kind of spend usually like set up some time for 1 hour to kind of jam over a weekend, and then usually it ends up going beyond 1 hour because we're just kind of excitedly kind of like a laser beam, like we're just like boom 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 sharing ideas and kind of making it grow. And a lot of times so much has come out of just that 1.5 hours. So for me it's like, oh, this is going to happen over a span of 3 days. Hell yes, I'm all in here.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. Three
Yeah.
days of like uninterrupted time is like my dream, but that's probably not gonna be the case.
Yeah. Have you guys been to SF or California before?
Yeah, I think we both have. I actually just came back from LA like a few days ago, so I'll be going to California twice in 1 month.
Yeah. It's gonna be my first time, so I'm probably
Oh,
just gonna
nice.
stick in the area. Um,
Mhm.
I also wanted to see. Um, I'm curious to see. What are some of the other projects in Nights and Weekends season 3, that you guys found interesting or that you wanted to see more of?
Oh, I
Yeah.
have one at top of my mind. Yeah, "Fail" by Sheldon is was one of the things that I have been kind of using, and it's just so intuitive, and I love using that. And there's this another one. I don't know if it was a part of buildspace though, but I know that conjure.xyz. The name is kind of, I just remember the Twitter handle of the person who works on it. Like such an interesting, it's essentially like a talking, so you can talk to your favorite book, and a couple of books that
Oh
are
wow.
featured in there. Yeah, that was a really interesting one. uh, Definitely if they are coming to SF, I want to hit them up and kind of meet them
Mm-hmm.
in real life. So those two are like the top ones that kind of come to my mind. And Helen, I know you had a couple of ones, so I'll let you kind of answer.
Oh, I think I'm trying to remember if I'm like thinking of the right name for it. I think it's called like The Bridge or something, but it's like she reached like the creator of it reached out to me on Twitter after I made that post about like helping people with like UX writing or
Mm-hmm.
like marketing or whatever. And I think she has a really cool idea of like trying to make therapy more accessible, and like mental health is such an important thing to
Mm-hmm.
me. Like it's something I can be really passionate about. So I thought that was a really cool project idea. I think the concept behind it is to allow people to like help co-finance therapy sessions since they can be so expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So just like the idea of wanting to make therapy more accessible to people, I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then there was also something like that was kind of like to me it felt a little bit silly, but I also like respect the idea of it. I think it's a pretty interesting idea. They also reached out to me after like the UX writing post. It's called Loot God, and the
Oh
idea
yeah,
is to like allow you to generate AI images and then collect like loot or like merchandise with that
it's
AI
like
image on it. Yeah,
creating custom merch, like a
yeah,
T-shirt
like
or like a phone
custom merch.
case with
Yeah.
AI generated. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's like it only allows you to like buy, or it only allows people to purchase one of each type of thing. So it's like really trying to push that it's like a unique item, which I thought was
Hmm.
really interesting.
Yeah, I actually ran into them because
Mm,
I'm well, I didn't the creator didn't message me or anything, but I've been doing this week. I've been reviewing some of the 0 points on the leaderboard,
mm, yeah.
and I'm like trying to see like which projects are like hidden gems, kind of,
Mm,
because you know it's week 5, so if you're still submitting updates, that means you're pretty committed to your project. And
for
if
sure.
you are committed to your project, then you should get like at least 1 point, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just like I found Loot God and I tried to sign up, and I got like a forbidden error or something. So
Oh
that's
God.
probably why that's probably why they didn't get anybody like buying anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, I messaged him and I still haven't heard back. But yeah, that's one of the projects I was interested in. And Tanisha, the Bane, was one of my earliest demo testings. And I was just amazed by it. And I actually had a talk with Shelwyn, and uh, we basically got really a bit closer. And he was like, "Yeah, let me know if any projects in season 3 are interesting or if I should follow them." And I told him to reach out to you guys because I retweeted
Oh.
your game demo, and I was like, "Yo, this is a really cool project. I think you would like it." Um, but yeah, I'm so glad that you find his app as useful as I did. I think there's a lot of AI projects,
Oh, for sure.
but I feel
Many.
like there's always a uniqueness to like creative aspects. So like kind of like the storytelling of the game that you guys are developing, and it's kind of like questioning because Lucy is searching for the perfect recipe for a friend, but we're all searching for our own personal recipes for our lives, right? So we're trying to figure out like what balance of like work plus money plus family plus friends makes us happy. And I think that's really like beautiful that you guys are like working together and dedicated. I should probably go to more hackathons, honestly. Um, it's just very intimidating to me because I don't really have that much strength or faith in my programming. Like I'm very
Oh.
foundational. Like I know the basics of it, but you know, I'm not like confident to just show up and be like, oh, let's do this in like 24 hours. So since you guys have some hackathon experience, what kind of advice would you give to someone who's trying to get into like programming, gaming, um, and developing, and they don't really know where to start?
I'd be happy to take that one,
Yeah.
Helen, to start off
Oh,
with.
yeah.
Uh, as a huge hackathon, this thing aficionado, I would say, one thing is just leave your inhibitions behind. Like everybody else is just as nervous as you are about coming to a space does not have like a dedicated structure on what needs to happen. And I'll kind of tie it back to something that I said earlier. Have a good understanding of what are the things that you really enjoy doing. So I'm not saying what you're good at, because uh, programming is a really good example for me. I'm not good at programming. Like Helen has seen me struggle, so I'm not good at it. But at the end of the day, when I kind of spend those 3 hours to just kind of get this tiny icon button visible, it brings me a lot of joy. So that happiness, right? So I know that problem solving aspect of it makes me really happy. The artwork, creating artwork is something, again, not my biggest strength, but I really enjoy doing it. And I've been loving the love that Wake Up has been getting in that domain. So just kind of understanding what are some areas that you're good at, and kind of not being ashamed to bring them to the table and be like, hey, I'll raise my hands and I'll help you guys with the marketing material, or I'll help you. I'm not good at it, but if nobody, and there's also some humility involved. Like my first game jam, I remember, I took like my iPad because I thought I'll use my GarageBand to make some music for the game. Very humble this thing, but when we formed a random group together, there were two people who were like professional musicians, and I was like,
Oh my god.
you know what? I'm gonna take a back seat on this one and let the masters kind of do their job. But I did learn a ton from them, like how they work, what are some of the things that as a noob I didn't know. But then there was nobody there who were comfortable with 2D asset creation, and that's where I was like, hey, I can do that. I'll lean in over there. So flexibility, I think, is a really big part of it. Just kind of understanding that, hey, this is where it would help for me to lean in is a big like kind of learning this thing to have. And second thing is, I think finding the right teammates is a very big one. That's probably the most difficult thing, but there are just some people with whom you just vibe and you can create stuff. And I've been very lucky in my life to find a bunch of those. And Helen, you know, you're one of those.
No.
So yeah, that I think for me, it's like the people that I work with is like one of the biggest things for me.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, kind of building off of that, like very briefly, just gonna say a few things. Like Tanisha mentioned, like you should just go into it thinking that it's a learning experience. Like nobody's expecting you to be perfect. Nobody is expecting that you're like coming in and you're just like a god at everything. Like nobody is expecting that. And personally, like I did study computer science in college. I don't really code anymore, but I understand like the feeling of like thinking that you're very mediocre at programming, but chances are you're not as bad as you think. Like as a senior in college, for one of my classes, we had to build like an entire app from scratch with like a team of people, and I was really shocked by what I was able to accomplish. Right, because I was forced to be in that situation. I had to code. I had to like do all of these things I've never done before, work with these technologies that I had never worked with before, and like you'll be surprised by how much you can actually do. And then same thing that like Tanisha was talking a little bit about, like when I joined the hackathon team with Tanisha back in September, I honestly only joined them because I thought that the project itself was interesting. I had no idea what I was going to do there. Initially I was like, you know, like I'll help with the programming, like I don't know, I don't really know. um but I noticed that like there was maybe a gap where that I could fill in terms of actually writing the content that would appear inside the app. And I love writing, and I've been writing my whole life. So I was like, "Hey, Tanisha, I know you're doing the design stuff, but if you need anyone to help with the writing, like I would love to help." So yeah, just like going into hackathons with an open mind, knowing that maybe the thing that you signed up to do might not actually be the thing you signed up to do, and also knowing that, you know, on your team, like there's probably people that you're going to be able to learn from, and just treating it like a learning experience. Like it's not supposed to be a huge intimidating thing. It should be fun.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And another one tiny thing to add to that is that was uh, like coding is hard and all of it, but if there's any time in my life that I want to get into it, it would be now, because with
Yeah.
the advent of chat gpt and AI tools, trust me, like I've been on this coding journey for the past 3 years. Like I've been trying to make games. I used to make like these mini games using block codes and things like that, but suddenly the reason wake up exists is because I've kind of drawn a lot of help from understanding like if there's any walls that I'm hitting,
Mhm.
I'm not kind of spending hours on Stack Overflow kind of looking for answers now. So this is a really good time, like some of the major gaps that you see in your learning that can be pretty easily fulfilled using some of these great tools that are coming up.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. That's all of my questions that I had prepared. So if you guys have anything else you want to talk about,
I actually did. Like Kevin, for me, I just wanted to, and this could be probably off record. I'm guessing, right? Because I'm guessing you'll be topping this interview because I don't want people to get like a whiplash. Like, what the fuck? This meeting just went from games to something completely different.
I think the most important thing that I would want to share with people is just like if you have something that you're passionate about or something that you're interested in, you should just do something about it. Because I think for me, like for the longest time, I've always been passionate about writing. I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always loved like storytelling in video games and stuff. But I kind of just like thought to myself, like, oh, that's not like something that I can do. Like I didn't go to school for it. I'm not one of those people who like published a book when I was 16. Like I'm not that person, right? But like anybody can do anything. So yeah, if you're passionate about something, you should just do something about it. That's what I've been kind of thinking for the past almost year of my life ever since I graduated, and honestly it's been like the best year of my life. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's all.
Yeah, I can relate. I got all this. I first got the ambition to stream or start making videos a couple years ago, like during COVID. And then I got the equipment, I got the camera, I got the mic, and then I just didn't do it. Because every time I would open OBS, you know, I'd look at the stream button, I'd look at my screen, and I'm like, oh God, this is so scary. And then when I did stream, when I finally clicked that button, it was like zero viewers all the
Hmm.
time. Um, but you know, make when I started season three, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start making it.
Yeah.
Start making videos, even if it gets no views. I'm just gonna make them for myself.
Mhm.
Um, and then Fazio was like, oh, if nobody cares about it, why are you doing it? And then I'm like, okay, what can I do that people care about? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna help, other creators with their projects because if there's anything they care about, it's their own projects. Um, so that's kind of where I started, and I've been getting more and more comfortable being around this camera setup and
Mhm.
kind of like talking to nobody. Um, or just doing like these interviews, kind of, you know, just friendly chats. And yeah, I'm really proud of like where I am now compared to where I was. And yeah, I would just say if you're like passionate about something, you should at least do something, right? Like
Yeah.
even if it's not like a huge thing, just start, and you never know what can come out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely.
Exactly. And another thing, just to kind of, since we are kind of at the end of this thing, this was something I definitely wanted to highlight. I don't know how you'll chop this, Kevin, because this kind of comes back to the game stuff. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, one thing we want to kind of, I discussed it with Helen too, like it was pretty difficult for us to get into this whole journey of making game. Like somebody said that, like the first step is the hardest,
Mhm.
and it was definitely true for me. Like at least for me, I had like some taste of it. Like I had seen Cody develop this beautiful
Mhm.
mechanics, cute characters, and all of that, and a part of me was always like, oh, I want to be able to do that. uh, and it's just that I kind of started squandering my time learning random tools that weren't aligned with what the final output that I wanted. Like I started learning JavaScript, and which has been helpful in other
Yeah.
areas. HTML, all of that has been kind of, it helps me build my website part of it. But uh, the thing that really clicked was talking to people. And when Helen, like for instance, when with the wake up thing happening, is when we and Helen discussed about, Helen was like, have you heard of RenPy? I had heard about RenPy for the longest time. It's not until I downloaded it and started playing with it, that was the moment I knew what a visual novel was. And I was like, hell, you know what? When I said games, this is exactly what I wanted to do. Like, I don't care about how good your aim is or whatever.
Mhm.
At the end
Mm-hmm.
of the day, the games that I love, like Gone Home, and Life is Strange, and all of these games, the core mechanics, it's not the core mechanics, it's the core narrative that kind of
Mhm.
really draws me in.
Mm-hmm.
So, so with this whole thing, we've been keeping really solid documentation, and I want to make it open source. So if tomorrow, if anybody comes in and they are like, hey, how did you get begin on this journey, I want to let them know about everything. It's like, this is what you need to do. Go this way. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Like, just believe in yourself and you can do it. And probably Renpa is like one of the simplest thing. Like, if you can type and if you can write, you can do this.
Hmm.
So, and also how to keep yourself a little sane by not biting off more than you can chew, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
the reason we decided to remove the whole cooking part and all of it, we it was an ambitious start, but then we both were like, MVP, does this stick to our MVP goals, like
Hmm.
most viable. We have a good term in our team. We don't call it MVP, we call it MLP, most lovable product. Like,
Oh.
so we're stripping it down to its core essence, but still making it workable and lovable. So yeah,
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah. That's some great advice, and I feel like open sourcing it would really enable a lot of people to kind of get a sense of like what's going on, and kind of get started, like inspire other people to kind of get into that space.
absolutely. Yeah. And when I say open source, it's also like the work, some of the so as creatives we tend to think a lot about the tools and the output of it, right? Like the
Mm.
code base and all of things. There's one really important element which I think it's really vital. My team does a pretty good job of it, so it's something that I've learned through them, is the culture that we develop with the people that we are working with, making sure they feel safe and wanted around, and making sure that we are all on the same page around, like, hey, what happens if we don't hit that deadline?
Mm.
Because that's always like the sense of the people come first before this product. That's like a
Mm.
core thing
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of established too. Those are certain things that easily fall off. That's something that you either learn the hard way, where you kind of get burnt out or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Happened to me, so I kind of learned from those experiences, like, no, your mental well-being kind of trumps everything. You're beyond all of this, because it's easy to get drawn into your passion projects and forget to eat, but that's also kind of crucial part
Mm-hmm.
to take
Yeah.
care of.
Yeah. Health
Mm.
first. Mental and physical.
Yeah, both,
Yeah.
yeah. Last of Us 2, I'm playing it right now, and oh my god, it's based in Seattle, and there are certain areas I'm like, I walked past that street. They do such a good job
So
of
crazy.
aligning the game. So my plan is to come downtown sometime just to kind of, yeah, visit it after
Yeah,
playing
that's
the
so
game.
cool. Wow. I didn't know that.
All right.
Good to
Well,
know.
I think I have to go soon,
Yeah,
so
see
let's
you.
Yeah.
end it there.
All right.
And yeah, it was really great to chat with you guys, and I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person.
I know.
Yeah.
See you 23rd.
See you. Take care.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye bye.